freedom farming refers to is basically the more you interfere, the more input you put into your farming adventure, the more you're not free to observe and let nature do its thing. So I think freedom farming is really ultimately what we all want to see in terms of sustainability. It's the ultimate opposite of control, which is the way we viewed agriculture, where we're trying to grow something that wants to die and we kill everything that wants to grow using herbicides or whatever. So you want to really just let each piece of land express itself, and your job is to try to give it the flexibility in terms of genetics that it couldn't do on its own. See, nature takes 1,000 years or 10,000 years to develop its genetics, right? If you look at a forest here, it's not the same as it was 100 years ago. This island was probably 100% trees 100 years ago. Now it's maybe 5%. And most of the trees that were here 100 years ago are cut down, especially the ones that provide food, right? So what I would like to see in my freedom farming definition is I would like to build up what was here before, but by bringing in species that nature cannot possibly bring here in the form of seeds carried by birds or stuff washing up from the river, an animal carrying it in, because we have too much population. You can't get this natural migration of genetics into a forest anymore. So my job is not free to begin with. It's more restoration. The ideal situation is to view it as a recreational space instead of a workspace. That's what freedom to me means.
You still having fun?
I'm having incredible fun.
Hear about willows. They grow like a weed in water. I mentioned this at the last workshop, but there's a guy in Nova Scotia who cuts back the willows to the root system every year and harvests the top part as a type of mulch / lumber. He can reharvest every year.
Dynamic.
Ken likes cone alders from a permaculture perspective. He'll probably talk a little bit about it on his way down. They fix nitrogen in their root system. Does anybody have any questions about these trees here, the hard nuts?
Yes. Why are they started close together?
Because Ken doesn't care. What hard nut shells look like. You see one on the ground, you can pick it up.
Really?
They haven't dried out yet or rotted, so some of them are pretty tough. Crack it open. Maybe this is... Oh.
What are these again? Hard nut? Butternut?
Oh, I don't think this was a hard nut. I think this was a different tree.
That's butternut.
Yeah.
The hard nuts look more like the hard.
Yeah, those ones are more up there, but there are hard nuts in this line. I guess he mixed in other kinds too. But anyway.
What is that then?
I think it's a butternut. Trees in this line are juglands. They're all producing on the ground around them juglone, which is allelopathic, which means that it's supposed to inhibit other weeds. But as you can see, it doesn't really inhibit too much. High bush cranberry.
Very cool.
These that we're walking under here, argousier sea berry. You can give it a try. They might not be that ripe. This is a standard cherry tree. I believe it's a sour cherry. Yeah.
Small cherries or normal size?
About that big. So a little bit larger than a dime. Between a dime and a quarter, well, I guess a nickel. Can anybody tell me what this is? And I think you came to the workshop last time, so you know what it is.
Pawpaw tree.
No, not a pawpaw.
Pawpaws look smaller.
Who said chestnut? Yeah, lucky winner. You get to pick up one of those shells. Go wild. So don't, because we didn't have you sign a health waiver. So. They're very prickly.
Prickly. This is a native or a hybrid with the
This is a hybrid with Chinese. Now, all the shells are empty. If there was a nut, it would be extremely obvious to see because they stand out quite vividly. I remember I was walking by, I picked them up. Unfortunately, it's quite obvious for the squirrels as well.
Yellow.
Yeah, see this one, what happens is the squirrels will go and knock them down before they're ready, which sucks because they don't actually crack and you don't actually get anything from them and you lose yield.
How old? 30 years? 40 years?
This, I believe, was just before my time, so easily 30. And this is seedling.
Okay.
How you guys make it out? Hanging in there? Thought that was you in the back.
Of course it was me.
Food doesn't have to jump out at you or impact your present terrain. You can hide it and blend it in. The history of where I'm sitting, this was a swamp when I bought the farm 40 years ago. Behind the barn was swamp, and all along the front was stone landfill and 3 open wells. And nothing but scrub brush from here down to the other end. Now, what do you do when your farm main building, the farmhouse was up there. The original experimentation I did was right here in that kind of 1 acre behind the farmhouse. And you will notice that I started out with great apprehension. I didn't know if I could actually fill these fields up, so I did it slowly. But if you look over there on the other side to the left, you'll notice big tall trees. Those are black walnuts. I started those 30 years ago, and I put them 1 foot apart, the seeds. And you'll notice that some of the trees are 50, 60 feet high and 1 foot apart. Now the experts told me I'm supposed to put 50 feet between black walnuts. I put 1 foot. I got it wrong. But the trees somehow talked to each other and didn't agree with the experts and taught me a lesson. Everybody asks me how far apart should I put the trees. Freedom farming, we don't care. We just stick them there everywhere together. And guess what happens? They decide if they want to grow. They don't like where you have them, they won't grow or they'll bend to find the sunlight. All those trees over there, we've got huge big saw logs because the trees decided they'd go up together and find the sunlight. So you got these 50-foot trees producing black walnuts, the kind that I brought down for you, and 1 foot spacing. When they get bigger, I bet you their trunks are going to touch. And how did they do that? Well, obviously the roots communicate with each other and the top of the tree. So those roots are going down and they're saying, hey, you take the nutrients there, I'll take them there. Now you may say that sounds funny, trees talking to each other. But now it's been proven scientifically. One of the universities, any of you heard of this research? They've proven that plant roots actually talk to each other. So we've got to start realizing that, these things here aren't dead. When you call them a piece of crap, they hear it. And when you treat them like crap, they'll treat you back like crap. So just let them be a tree. This is a willow. Most areas in the cities won't allow it because they say the roots are invasive. Not really. They just like water. The only reason they go into the sewer mains is because there's water in there and there's a hole in the sewer main. So you want water and there's a hole in the pipe, go find it. They're smart. They're not invasive. So you got to start to respect trees a little more, and that's why this becomes something you can interact with rather than trying to control. So we have a willow. I left it here because this was the water table here is about this far under the ground. Okay? There's a little bit of sandy landfill from the land there to make it a little higher. But right here where if I go down a foot, there's water. And around the edge, this is heavy, wet clay. Pecans love that. As you go further up the hill to that little sandy knoll, the only one we have on the property, to where I have the chestnuts, I started putting in black walnuts, which can take heavy soil, but not quite as heavy. And then after that, it's all the heartnut walnuts, and then the chestnuts. And then I put a few oaks up there, like the pin oak. I don't know if you saw those. But I think oaks are a very important thing to look at, because oaks are indigenous to most of our area. And the oak savanna is a model, with all the trees that gather around an oak forest. It's a model for us to mimic our permaculture farmland plantations after. So I like oaks. We've got bush cherries here. These are the Nanking cherries. But this takes shade. Somebody's asking about shade.
Yeah.
It's another shade plant. Pink blossoms in the spring. Very nice little cherries. Some people like them better than sour cherries. They're actually sweeter than sour cherries. But they're smaller than the big sour cherries or the sweet cherries. So that's another cherry. Further down the ridge here, I've got a whole bunch of cornelian cherries. Now, by the way, a cornelian cherry, you know what it is?
No.
It's a dogwood. We have dogwoods all over our fields when I first came here. So I said, why aren't we planting a dogwood, a native across Canada, hardy, grows anywhere, heavy clay, light soil, upland, lowland. Why aren't we planting cornus, which is dogwood? Well, most of the fruit, the birds eat it. The Indians used to mix it with stuff and eat it. But why don't we have a cornus that's edible? Because there's always something in nature, in a species, that's edible. So I went to Europe and I found out over in Europe that this cornus mass, cornulier mass from Europe, was the one they used over there as a replacement for kind of a cherry plum kind of food. Okay? Very, about, you know, they're about the size of the end of your little finger. I've got some of them now maybe up like that, selections. But to me, it represents the best of the cornus species to mix in an edible forest. So I got a lot of those down here. The high bush cranberry, you'll see those all over the property. Those berries stay on all winter. Now, anybody making the real cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving from these? Anybody? Anybody here? 0 for 40, okay. That's what your grandparents used to make their Thanksgiving cranberry jelly out of. They still do? They still do in some parts. And the taste is phenomenal. I've talked about kiwis before. We just built this bench this spring, and I stuck a kiwi plant down there. And I told the guy who built it for me, just make sure you pull the kiwi plant up through here. And he did. And you can see this summer it's starting to do its job. This one here is climbing up the rope. This one here behind you, remember I said behind the barn, there's a kiwi. I put that one there about 10 years ago. You can see what it did.
Oh, wow.
If you don't believe it's a kiwi, open it up.
Taste it. Yeah. They're very small. It's a kiwi.
Is he good? Mm-hmm. Very good.
On the fence, can anybody tell me what that is growing there, that vine?
That's Ken Taylor.
Oh, the vine growing on top of the Asian pear.
Hops.
Hops,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah. See?
Specifically cascade. They're all pretty dehydrated.
Since the ice storm, what's that, 20 years ago now?
Yeah.
It's been quite a while. The ice storm here, Beaconsfield, Point Claire, all the West Island communities, nobody wanted chips back then. So they were piling up in the municipal garbage areas. So I allowed them to dump these here. They brought it right up to the top of the barn with chips, big trucks. And I just let them all go down, and now I have very good compost there in that swamp. So that's why I use it to grow bananas, and I put the pawpaws over at the edge of it. I use it to do seedling evaluations and so on. You'll look next to the banana. There's a whole bunch of pawpaw seedlings there in the shade of the banana. And if you go to the other side, you'll see persimmons. Persimmons, by the way, anybody like persimmons?
Yes.
Yeah, they're very nice. Unfortunately, the tree right behind the banana there, you'll see maybe the dead stalk of it. I had a guy, the fellow that drops chips, he backed over it last year and killed it. But that's fine. It was a female. So I got another male over here started. You can see there's a male and a female there. I put them over there where they're, you don't notice here, but there's a lot of things. A lot of other edible things. That's the red star plum, that little tree there that never gets black knot. There you have a red Arctic, Prunus nigra Canadian, Prunus inistia plus Prunus nigra. That's a cross between Japanese and Canadian. Those are black knot resistant plums. Down through the middle there you've got pomegranate, peaches, red leaf peaches, edible bamboo, all sitting there. You see the tall tree growing straight up to the sky? That's a seedling pear that's loaded with pears still.
Oh, you can see the pears.
You can see them. If you look, that's a whole line of seedling pears. Oh, there's an apple stuck in there. Oh, you go further down, I see
Grapes.
grapes. Look at the grapes way up in the top of that tree up there. See them up there? There's probably 150 pounds of Tuscany red grape. It's a seedling that can take zone 2 and makes tremendous Chianti type wine. Those are American chestnuts. You'll see the burrs at the top of the tree if you look carefully. See the tallest ones? Those are chestnuts, full of chestnuts. All in that little polyculture there. Pecans with the shrub cherry olives. I put a pomegranate right there. Pomegranate is only good to -20. So I figured if I put it, the northwest winds come straight out of there. So if I've got the windbreak there, then more bushy windbreaks, maybe this will collect a lot more snow. And under 2 or 3 feet of snow, maybe that pomegranate will only feel -20 rather than the -35. So I left it there and it did come back. But it took so long to come back that it has no flowers. So I'm hoping that it'll harden off. That's the second stage to growing fruit trees. Acclimatization. This guy's looking at my pomegranate. He's a pomegranate enthusiast. He asked me. This is a pomegranate where the seed is soft. So you can chew it without that, going down whole and coming out whole. You may be able to harvest some of the nutrients inside the seed. And next to it, you'll see 2 little plants coming out of the ground. Those are Fioja, which is considered a tropical fruit. Fioja, pineapple guava. Ever heard of it? They're delicious. They can take -20 like a fig. I left them out last 2 winters. But boy, look, they have a tough time coming back. So they're not acclimatizing very quickly. I have medlars here in the field. It's probably 50 feet away. I have medlars. Actually, there's 3-4 medlars over there. They produce a little fruit that you actually have to let it rot for 2 months before you can eat it. How's that? A fruit that you want to rot before you eat it. And it tastes better after it rots. It sort of forms a leathery skin, and the flesh inside becomes soft and almost prune applesauce texture, very sweet, very fruity, and very revered by people who've actually tasted it. And there's nobody growing medlars commercially. So if you grew them, unlimited market. Why do I grow bananas? Because I think we can grow anything in northern climates, outdoors, if you learn what the plant wants. This one needs 12 to 13, maybe 12 months of heat, but we only get May, June, July, August, September, maybe 5, maybe 6 max of heat, plus 15 or more. So you got to bring it in for 1 winter and then bring it out again. I've got to take that in because if it was ready, it would send out a great big flower head with a couple of 100 bananas on it. So I'm going to take it in. And you don't have to worry about it. These have done their job. All you want is the root down there. It's a perennial. This is going to die once the flower comes out. But look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 babies. Bananas, because I like to taste bananas grown here in the north. But when these don't provide banana taste for me? Then you look right over there and you have the northern banana. See those droopy leaves? You can go take a look. Anybody want to see a pawpaw growing?
Well, yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
I'm
God.
pointing over there next. Point of interest.
These droopy leaves are the pawpaw leaves. You notice how badly insect damage there is? How much fungus there is on them? That's because this plant is antifungal, antibacteria, anti-insect. The only one that can feed on the leaves is a swallowtail butterfly. Everything else doesn't have a system that can handle the chemicals in here, the natural chemicals. In the US, they're developing botanical pesticides from it, and they happened to throw it in a petri dish full of cancer cells, and it killed all of them. More effective than any of the other treatments we have now for chemotherapy. Each one of those fruit, one pawpaw has the equivalent nutrient content as a mango, a banana, an apple, an orange, and a pear. You add all the nutrients together of those 5 fruit, it equals the same nutrients total that you would find in one pawpaw. So that's how nutrient dense it is. Don't touch them. In North America, the largest indigenous fruit in
Here you go.
He touched
It
one.
fell on the ground. I swear I didn't take it off the tree.
It's not ready. I know you didn't, Nick. Oh,
I wouldn't dare.
He was afraid for his
it's not a fresh. He was afraid for his arm. This one's not quite ready, but you'll see it's like a banana. This is a small one. Last year I had them up to 350 grams. A pound is 454. There are some that can grow to 454 grams. An average banana is about 130 grams, but they're not very dense. These are really heavy. Okay, so you get very dense fruit, all packed in this little package. Anyway, this one is green like a green banana. It's not ready, hasn't got the smell. Okay, and what it's going to do is
you eat as well?
You
You eat the skin right through, or is it?
can eat
peels?
everything.
Everything
The only
on it?
thing you cannot eat is, there are seedless varieties, but I don't want those. So this is a seeded variety. You have to make almost an erotic kind of connection with the seeds, because they slip around in your mouth in amongst the custard, mango, banana, vanilla, butterscotch erotica that's inside there. It is a sensual experience to eat a pawpaw the first time. I tell you, 2-3 years ago, my first time, the seeds have got this very thin, silky kind of transparent coating that kind of slips off, and if you're not careful, the seed slips down your throat, because it's like a very smooth kidney bean, and it's very, very slippery, and the skin is slippery, but the skin is extremely sweet. So this was, I guess, nature's way of getting an animal to pick up the seed and carry it. But what I had to ask myself, I could talk for an hour on pawpaws.
This guy here is an Illinois ever-bearing mulberry. It stopped fruiting about a month and a bit ago. I think the last workshop there was 1 or 2 fruit on it, but not much. It starts fruiting around the same time as strawberries, and it stops at the beginning of the school year. So when I was younger, at the end of the school year, when I get off the bus, I could eat these, and then I could eat them all summer long, and then at the beginning of the next school year, I was still eating them. But it's pretty cool. Very popular with the birds. This tree here, extremely vigorous. I think it's only 4 years old. Like, mulberries grow super well, especially from seeds. I've been playing around using them as rootstocks for fun, just because their root system's so vigorous. But it's definitely an awesome tree for your backyard. From an economic point of view, it is tricky to harvest because it's ever-bearing, uneven maturity, because it's constantly producing fruits. But if you want something that's delicious for you, your kids, and your family, you definitely need one of these, because they're awesome.
This is a peach that didn't do very well. Why? I leave it there to remind me. a mouse, like the bark, so it ringed it. So when anything gets ringed, I just leave it to see what happens, because the variety on the top is different many times from the rootstock on the bottom. This got ringed too. This is a medlar. Okay? Now, guess what came up from the bottom? A medlar. Because I had a medlar seedling. So I'm okay. This had nice sized medlars on it. They all started falling, so I took them off last week. This here is a medlar that didn't get eaten off by the mice. And you can see that I put a guard on it because I want to save it. This is called, oh, geez, look at that. There's one there, still left. You know, the butt end of the apple. So Shakespeare called it the open-arsed fruit in his best Shakespearean language. It's what Romeo and Juliet shared as a fruit in that famous Romeo and Juliet play or sonnet, whatever you call it. That is the medlar from England. This one's called Royal. Is it bigger or smaller than the rest? No, it's like most of them. I can get fruit double that if I thin them. And these trees are very young, so I expect them to get a little bit bigger. But the skin is very russety or leathery, and it becomes like a, remember the old wine flask we used to use in your college days? It was a piece of leather and inside you put the wine. Well, that's what this is kind of like. You're aging the flesh inside a leathery skin. It becomes soft and succulent. But that's a medlar. Peaches here, a line of test peaches. And then behind the test peaches, just so you know, there's kind of good stuff here. There are jujubes there. That's it. The Z fruit. Ziziphus. Jujuba. You ever heard of jujuba?
It's a relative of the date.
Exactly. A very sweet fruit like the date. The Chinese date is its other name. There they are over there. You see those little feathery things? There's flowers all up and down them, but I didn't get them in very early this spring, so they're not going to produce any fruit. So Ziziphus jujubus. Then next to it I have another hardy nut tree, the not very, pistachio. Everybody likes pistachio?
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on those as well. The Japanese quince, there's a European quince, and down here you have the Japanese quince. Okay, here, look. Okay, here's Japanese quince. Okay, there's hundreds of them down here in the ground. So it's a shrub quince rather than a bush quince. There's an apricot crossed with a plum. It's what we call an aprium. And there you can see the persimmons there, still shiny. Persimmons there, persimmons there. And this is a pawpaw. This is one I got from the U.S. out of their research program called the Shenandoah. So I put it there in the chips and it loved it.
What is that?
Pin oak. I love it because it turns from green to red to a golden brown, and the leaves stay on all winter. You ever heard of winter ornamentals? Yeah, I started out with probably 100 chestnuts in here, and there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 that made it. The rest died of canker, so I know these are resistant. I mean, look at the size of them. There's no oozing cankers on them or anything, so I know they got a little bit of genetic difference from pure American. Castanea is a chestnut, so if you get a little bit of Americana crossed with the Chinese, you end up getting resistant to the chestnut blight. So they're probably 95%, 98% American sweet chestnut with a little bit of Chinese blended in. We don't know how much. So what can I put around it? Well, mint, perennial herbs and culinary herbs and medicinal herbs, but I wanted something edible, so I put in lingonberries. You ever heard of lingonberries? No. It's a ground cover that actually loves being down on the ground beneath a blueberry bush. If you ask any Russian or Swedish or Scandinavian country, they go to blueberries and yay to lingonberries. So if I have those nationalities here, I had a Russian lady last summer. She was gorfing down the lingonberries and didn't care about the blueberries. So if you want to see what they look like, they're little red berries tucked down in there somewhere. It was a seed that happened to fall there, and I let it grow. And this is a poor year for this tree. You should see it in some years. You can't see the friggin' branches. These are seedlings of the table apple pear, and you see they look a lot like it. All these are seedlings. If you want to taste them, you want to taste a Bartlett seedling? Anybody game for it?
Bartlett?
Bartlett seedling.
Route to Bartlett.
Yeah, okay. This is an Asian pear seedling. Yeah. This is a, you know, I'm looking for very hard, late, red-fleshed apples. Nick, leave them on the tree though, those, eh? You know those hard red ones?
Yeah.
I want them to mature. They're not ready till about the end of October.
You're lucky.
Somebody got one?
I had her try one.
Too hard. It's like a rock.
Pretty cool though.
Yeah, this is a very, very dark, very hard red apple. So I call it hard red for now. But it doesn't really develop its flavor until the 1st of November.
Well, I have a little statement, food for thought. With apples, fun fact, most of the beneficial compounds are actually found in the skin layer. And there has been research, actually in the lab I worked in, they were doing research on how these specific compounds in apple skins protect your heart and improve your cardiovascular health in various ways.
Apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Keeps the heart condition away.
Exactly. You can see they're saying, please pick me. Just one, just to taste it. And I want the seeds. Any tree you want, any Taylor apple pear you want. Take a crunch and tell me your excitement.
That's a perfect crunch.
The more yellow and red they are, the different flavor from the dark, the greenier ones, which are more crisp.
So weird.
How old would these be,
It tastes like a pear.
These are all 20-some years old, 25 years old.
You want to taste it if you want to
See
have a
that
few?
one there had
Go
the
for it.
top break off last year, and look what it did. It came back with some new water suckers this year.
Oops,
and
a good way to
whole
find
food
out if they're
load.
ripe is to just go against the grain.
Ask a question.
Okay, you see the brown ones at the back? What do you think those are? Asian pear? If this was Taylor apple pear, what was that one called? From Korea.
Kenko.
Kenko, she's the winner right here. What did she get, Nick?
What do you think?
Oh, she gets a Kenko.
That worked out.
And now, aren't you amazed that there's no insects inside them?
Yeah.
A little bit of sooty mold on the ones down that broke down into the soil, but look at the ones up there where they're supposed to be. How many insects damaged? Not sprayed, not fertilized, not watered. Look at the foliage. What does that tell you? Do you think I'm faking this? Are you amazed? Are you going home and plant some?
Yes. Yes.
Fine. That's all I wanted to hear you say. I'm finished for the day. That's it.